I want to jump right in, but quickly before that, I'd like to thank everyone who supported my last video. If you haven't checked it out yet, be sure to do so. But it is easily my most well-performed video by more than 10 times, so let's get a quick round of applause for that. Woo! Thank you guys, thank you. And then we also got to clap it up for hitting 50 subs. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. You'd also clap it up because I'm back, baby. Alright, enough, let's get started. The Nintendo Wii is a home video game console released on November 19, 2006. Yeah, it's been almost 18 years. I believe I had just turned 2 years old when my brother and I got our Wii. I literally can't even recall the moment, but I know it was for Christmas since I've seen pictures. As I grew up, I was able to recall more and more fond memories. Once I was around 3 or 4 years old, I was old enough to play games on my own, and I just remember being obsessed with Wii Sports Bowling. Like, no joke, I played that game so much, same with a bunch of other games that we'll get into later. During the Wii era, we already had the 360 and PS3, and while those consoles were off competing with each other, Nintendo went off and did their own thing, which made this console so much more special. There was nothing like the Wii at the time. Now, there's multiple things in my opinion that made the Wii so great, so I'd like to divide this up into certain categories, and as you can see on the screen right now, we have the overall uniqueness and personality, the game library, the controllers, and the marketing of the console. Let's put it into perspective for you. You turn on your Wii and you're greeted with the warning screen. You finally click A and the home screen is presented with delightful music. This home screen is unlike anything we've ever seen. Every app looks like its own TV and it really captures your attention right off the bat. There's so much to look at. Do you hop into that game, create a Mii, check the mail, the weather? You soon realize that the motion controls are needed to actually navigate your way around the menu. You click the disc and you realize you're yet to actually insert a game as you see the spinning Wii and GameCube games. And once you pop in that first game, you're presented with an incredible Wii channel startup.
New Super Mario Brothers! Whee!
But on the real, these startups have always been so fascinating to me. Every game having its own little intro makes the first time clicking on it so memorable. Me personally, my first time seeing the brawling Mario Wii ones are literal core memories to me now. You have your game channel, but if you move over to the right, the Miis. It's what made this console so memorable. Something as simple as creating a Mii and then playing as it on certain games is what made them so iconic. And this theme too, come on now, y'all should know this by now, Nintendo don't miss with the music. Due to their versatility, simplicity, and integration into many aspects of the Wii's environment, the Miis were a success. The Wii became a distinctive and memorable console for many users for the sole reason that they enhanced the gaming experience with this more social and personal element. The Miis were so iconic, and they obviously ended up making it to the 3DS, Wii U, and Switch, so I feel as if that alone goes to show the type of impact that it left. Now let's talk about one more thing, the Wii Shop, also considered the original eShop, which was one of the first stores on a console made for digital distribution of games. And yeah, it was actually good. Now while I just stated it, it's pretty evident what the eShop was for, and once again, that music as always. And I can actually say that the music in the eShop is a super smart idea from a business standpoint too. If you're gonna have people load up the eShop just to hear a specific song, it can actually have people browse around and become more and more tempted to buy things. But I also see it as it enhances your shopping experience and creates a more memorable environment. I also like to see it as a way to not feel as bad about draining your wallet because hey, good music. Wii points are actually another thing that I'd like to talk about, as it was its own unique currency to buy a bunch of new games. Wii points were favorably welcomed since they made it easier to buy and consume digital material, offered a variety of content, and added to the overall console's accessibility and attractiveness. Even though the Wii Shop channel and Wii point system are no longer in use today, they had a favorable impact on the gaming industry and the development of digital distribution on video game consoles. And just to list an example of one of those impacts is Microsoft points, which were its own currency for a couple years on 360 until they were obviously inevitably discontinued. You also have the Virtual Console, which reintroduced numerous classics from original systems. I mean, what really made it special was its affordability and the fact that it didn't really take anything away from the console, as it only added to its super extensive list of games. What also made it so good is the fact that it provided an opportunity for players to enjoy timeless classics and experience the nostalgia of retro gaming while introducing these titles to a whole new generation of people. Now there's so many little details in the eShop that are just so fun to me. For example, when you download a new application or game on the Wii, you see Mario running and hitting blocks as a way to show the download progress. Or another example is when Nintendo was getting ready to transition to the Wii U, they eventually released a transfer tool in the shop so that you can import all of your previous data onto the Wii U. And you'd have an awesome animation of Pikmin boxing up all of your data from the Wii and taking off in some spaceship to move it all onto the Wii U. It's things like that where I can look back on the Wii and remember those small details the most out of anything else. Now I really could ramble on for much longer on the unique traits of the Wii, but I'd really be dragging it on for a lot longer than it needs to be. If you've played one before, you'd understand what makes it so special. Right out the gate when the console had released, there wasn't a whole lot in terms of first-party games. Of course, it was backwards compatible due to the GameCube games, so that was cool, but in terms of new releases, there were two in particular. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, which was originally going to release in 2005, but I think that they delayed it for purposes to release it alongside the Wii, and it's a pretty loved game all around. But the game that most people knew because of the fact that it came free with the Wii was Wii Sports. Wii Sports is actually a lot more impactful than most people think. I feel like before this game, there was never a game that really brought the whole family together to play regardless of the demographic, at least not to this extent. Whether you played video games casually or barely played them at all, during the Wii era, everyone played Wii Sports. Obviously, I could also talk about the Mii's and motion controls, but I think that we'll just save those for later. The Wii objectively had one of the best catalogs when it came to games by far. There were multiple classics for every single franchise. I'm not even kidding too. Boom, 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 boom. And really all of these. I mean, you want to talk about Mario games, Galaxy 1 and 2 are arguably the best 3D Mario games of all time. Metacritic's ratings have both of these games in the top 7 highest rated games of all time, and they are both one after the other. And Galaxy needs no further explanation on why they're so incredible, but it doesn't stop there. You got Mario Bros. Wii, which is pretty much a sequel to Mario Bros. DS, and all it does is improve. We see brand new power-ups like the propeller and the penguin suit. Mario Bros. Wii is easily one of my favorites, if not my definite favorite, aside from possibly Mario World for the 2D games. And to top it all off, you have a super unique Mario Kart, Mario Sports Mix, Mario Parties, and so on and so forth. Even for Pokemon games, there's still a solid enough selection there. Nothing that stands out all that much since they're mainly spin-offs and Pokemon shined a lot brighter on the handhelds, but there's still enough to keep fans satisfied. You had 2 Pokepark games that are honestly not talked about enough, a game where you complete a variety of minigames or attractions, play chase and hide and seek as well as battle to make friends with other Pokemon. There's also Battle Revolution, which was sorta hated at one point. To be fair, the game was most likely rushed so it could release alongside Diamond and Pearl, but regardless, still enjoyable to an extent. And then Kirby, definitely the more unique 2D action platformer. And whether we talk about Kirby's Adventure, Return to Dreamland, or even Epic Yarn, they're all so good. Kirby always stood out to me a lot because of his copy ability. Almost every game of his is unique in its own way because there's always a good amount of new abilities to possess. And while Mario does have bosses, I feel like it's more common for Kirby stages to end with a boss rather than a basic endpoint, which in my opinion is way better. In terms of Zelda, Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess are some of the most generally beloved and talked about games in the series. Twilight Princess did lots of unique things. It had a very different atmosphere and a very different soundtrack at parts. Skyward Sword is a lot more focused on motion controls and has the most realistic sword combat in any game to date. The game has also gained a bit more traction ever since its remaster on the Switch. And then you have Link's crossbow training, which is, well... And just another quick thought, just while I'm working on this video that I didn't mention while recording previously, is the game manuals. Now this kind of goes as well with the overall uniqueness of the console and stuff, but I feel like the game manuals add so much more originality to the games itself too, because there's nothing like, as a kid, buying a game, coming home, and while you're in the car, you just open the game out of excitement and look through the manuals and stuff. But yeah, that's just one other thing that I wanted to mention. If you take a look at the progression of Nintendo's controllers through generations, you'll notice that they always elevated the bar and kept up with the times. And then there's this. And as crazy as it sounds and looks, this design really raised the bar even more. The most memorable and groundbreaking aspect of the Wiimote was its motion controls. For 2006, God, it was incredible. This gave Nintendo an opportunity to make a whole new variety of games on a home console. It also gave them opportunities for some viral marketing too. A lot of iconic games taking motion controls like Wii Sports, Skyward Sword, and Mario Kart Wii. I mean, as I mentioned previously, there was always something super genius and super different about having to navigate your way around the console and around menus with the motion controls. And it was fairly responsive too. I almost never had any issues with it aside from if the Wiimote was super far away or if I had it at a weird angle. When it came to the controllers, the Wii's variety was great. You had the standard Wii remote, which could be played vertically or horizontally depending on the game. And while motion controls were one of the main purposes, it also had another cool feature, which was the built-in speaker that played unique sounds depending on the game. And for certain games, it would require a joystick. And here came the nunchuck, which offered a joystick as well as 2 more buttons, which helped make many more games playable. And then you had the classic controller, which would be used by plugging it into the Wiimote. You had the Pro Controller as well, which was actually pretty good, but nothing like, say, the Switch Pro Controller. And as I hinted earlier with the backwards compatibility, the GameCube controllers were actually able to be plugged in, and you could play more than just a GameCube game with it. Everyone knows how good the GameCube controller is. It's easily one of the best controllers of all time. Gracefully, Mario Kart Wii and Brawl worked with the GameCube controllers too, which was incredible. Now, don't get me wrong, the Wiimote is definitely an odd one out in terms of mainline video game controllers, and while at first glance it is easy to criticize and judge it, but over time you start to learn that the very thing that made it so ridiculous is also what makes it so special, as it sort of helped pave the way for Nintendo's next 2 consoles. When we talk about marketing, luckily for someone like Nintendo, the company didn't really need to rely on how the system was being promoted, at least not all that much. Since Nintendo already had such a great foundation because of past consoles and reputation, they were already guaranteed to sell at least a couple million units off the bat. Obviously, things like their strong game catalog and loyal fans helped a lot, but what else?
Right here, I'm getting ready to serve. All I do is throw that ball up in the air, and when oh, jeez, and there goes the tennis racket.
Okay, no, but seriously, I'm not gonna act like Nintendo planned this for a marketing strategy, but these fills alone popularized the console alongside its motion controls way more than most think. There were a handful of iconic Wii commercials, most memorable one being the whole "We would like to play" ad, which became a pretty iconic tagline for the time. The thing with these commercials is that they actually appeal to all audiences rather than just kids, cause man, with the Wii U, I don't understand how they managed to mess up that bad. Its word of mouth marketing was also amazing because after a certain point of being out, many people had gotten their share of playtime with it and got to share their experiences, which led to this snowball effect of interest. And since the 360 and PS3 released first, Nintendo made the right move to make the Wii cheaper than the other systems, therefore its affordable pricing helped contribute very much to sales. To conclude everything, the Wii is and always has been one of those consoles that are so accessible to everyone, and it has aged beautifully. I bet you right now that if you were to go to 10 households that own a Wii, at least 4 or 5 of those families still have it plugged in all these years later, ready for use. Nintendo did an incredible job on including casual gamers and families into this one. The console's simple yet responsive controls and the introduction of the Wii Remote and Nunchuck were praised for their user-friendly design, making it easy for people of all ages to pick up and play games. You can go up to anyone from ages 5 to 50 that didn't live under a rock and show them a Wii, and I can almost guarantee you that they'd be able to recognize it, and that just speaks volumes.